How do I figure out what's next in my career? How do I align my work with what truly matters to me? And the biggest question of all, can I really design a career that I love? Hey, my name is Jen Smith, and I believe career success doesn't have to come at the expense of living a radiantly happy and healthy lifestyle. As a former HR leader and recruiter turned career coach, I've seen how traditional paths can leave people burned out or boxed in. And I know there's a better way, one that invites you to let go of outdated rules and outside expectations, one that evolves and supports meaningful growth over time. Whether you're feeling stuck, craving more clarity, or ready to expand within your current role and beyond, this show is for you. So grab your coffee or your kombucha, pull up a seat, and get ready to explore practical, modern strategies for building a meaningful, heart-based career. Because you deserve a long, radiantly happy, and healthy career. This is the Flourish Careers Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Flourish Careers Podcast. I'm Jen Smith, your host, and I'm thrilled to be here with you for season 10. This season is all about flourishing together. We have a full lineup of heartfelt, insightful conversations with incredible guests. Each episode is a curated conversation designed to inspire, uplift, and offer practical wisdom to help you flourish in your career and beyond. Today, I'm so delighted to introduce you to Jacqueline Boone. Jackie is the founder and CEO of the Dream Academy, a global consulting and L&D company dedicated to helping entrepreneurs build and grow dream companies. Her unique international background in digital marketing, business development, strategy, leadership, and professional development spans 19 years and includes working with everyone from solopreneurs and startups to Fortune 100 and 500 companies. She believes the world is better when we go for our heart-centered dreams, and I couldn't agree more. Jackie's first book, called Heart Language, will be launching soon. Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jen. I'm so excited to be here. Yay for season 10.
Yes, I can't believe it. So we are going to dive into all things heart-based, which is just music to my ears. And I'd love to start with a little bit of your background. So in your work, you say you did everything quote unquote right. We've got top grades, the right internships, even a job offer at a dream company like Time Inc. But then as graduation kind of neared, you started asking this really powerful question, like, is this really my path? And so can you just take us back to that moment and help us understand kind of what was stirring inside you and how you navigated it?
Yes, I love this question because I think at different points in our life, we have these crossroad moments. And obviously, as you're approaching graduation, you're asking those questions anyway of what am I going to do? Who am I going to be? And the biggest question I kept feeling is, what if there's more? What if there's more than everything that has been presented to me? And more specifically, what if there's more in this idea of really making a difference in the world? And that was very prevalent for me then. It's even more prevalent for me now, and a big reason that I created the Dream Academy. But in that moment, I had this crossroad, and I was, always the overachiever. So I was honor roll. I, had great grades. I walked on to D1 crew team, made the first boat, and then I left that and started a triathlon club. So I was always in this overachieving, very excited, and those dreams had always aligned with the path that was designated for me. And when I got the email for World Teach, which was a Harvard-affiliated nonprofit, and they focused on teaching, a year of teaching anywhere in the world for a year in a developing part of a country or in a country. And when I got that email, something in my heart just clicked. It was like, what is this? I need to explore this. And so when I went to the information session, I was looking at all the options, and the one that popped off the page, which made zero logical sense because I was an English major and a Spanish minor, had studied abroad in Spain, was rural China. So even though I did not speak Chinese, and I didn't, I had been there once with my family as a kid, but I didn't really have any knowledge of the culture. So it was such a contrast to what was logically, expected of me to go move to New York, work up the ladder, be VP by 30, and this opportunity to go be a volunteer teacher in rural China.
Oh my goodness. There's so much that I want to dive into here. And one thing I just want to point out for folks listening is when I talk about that nudge too, that email, the fact that that email jumped out at you, you said the word clicked, right? And then China jumped off the page at you, even though it made no sense. There was something there. So that's your heart. That's your spirit speaking to you in that moment. And so tell us what happened. So you followed that nudge?
Yes. And at first I totally ignored it because it made no logical sense. So I went to the info session. I saw it jump off the page. I said, oh, that's so great, but that's a pipe dream. That makes zero logical sense. At the time, I was in a relationship. And so that was in play too, about thinking about graduation plans. And then when that relationship ended, and it was like the nudge that doesn't go away.
Yes.
Once you feel that tap on the shoulder, then it's like a second tap on the other shoulder. Then it can be maybe a gentle shaking of your shoulders. So it just kept repeating, and I just could not get rid of that thought of China, China, China. And so I followed up. I applied, I went through the process, and I got in. And I noticed how excited I was when I got in. You're being in your heart, I think, and I know you know this, Jen, is a lot about paying attention to the somatic piece. It's about paying attention to the sensations in your body and feeling that opening feeling in your heart, that spaciousness. And I felt this sense of ease and excitement combined with complete and utter terror. So that's how I always say, that's a dream that's meant for you. If you're extremely excited and terrified, you're in a great place.
I love that so much. And it's so true. I felt that same when starting Flourish Career, is that terrified to give it a try, but the nudge that wouldn't go away, and you just go and do it. So you moved to China?
Yes, I did. So much to the shock of my family, and they were not expecting that at all. I did. I moved to China. I became a volunteer teacher living in rural Hunan province. I was the only female foreigner in the town. I was the second tallest woman in the town, and I did not speak Chinese when I moved there.
Oh my goodness.
But it would totally 100%, 1,000% was the right call. It changed everything in my life. And the thing about following your heart, and like you said, that spirit led place, is that it always ends up better than you could have ever imagined. And it's not that you're not going to have struggles. It's not that you're not going to have challenges. It's not that you're not going to have, the daily things. But when it's aligned with your heart from that place. And then, of course, you bring your brain with you, because I love my brain. I'm a total advocate of having the two work in tandem. But when you do that, then all of these other opportunities that you don't even know, it's almost like your heart is a compass, and it's tuning into that dial and that frequency of what's possible. And when you start taking those baby steps along that current, it's like the whole river opens up. It's like you find the little creek and the little stream to this massive river you didn't even know existed because you were too busy climbing the tree everyone told you to climb.
Oh my goodness. I couldn't agree more. I love that so much. It's just taking that right next step, the tiny right next step, and following it and following it. And you don't even know what's on the other side. And you're right. When you're in that flow, the opportunities just start opening up for you. So, and not even, I love when you said, like, not even imagining what's possible, because you can't. We don't have crystal balls. We can't predict our future. We can just take that right next step that we feel in our body and our heart. So absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel it's so inspiring. And now you're working on helping others kind of sense into their heart. And you talk about your book and in terms of like the heart has its own language. And you just talked to us a little bit about how you felt that in your body. body and how you really heard your heart speak. And for those that aren't familiar with this, can you give us a little bit more around how that feels or what to listen for and how that works?
Yes, one of my favorite exercises, and if you're open to doing it with me now, I think it would be great for the listeners to also hear and experience it, because it's one of the simplest, easiest ways to feel what I'm talking about. So, are you game for that, Jen?
Let's do it.
All right. So, when you think of the heart, what comes to mind when you just think of heart?
I think of love. I think of energy. I think of groundedness. Those are some things that come to mind.
Great. Okay, so if you're open to it, just put your feet on the floor, close your eyes. Obviously, if you're driving while you're listening to this is not the moment for that. Come back to that part of the exercise. But just take a couple deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just a couple deep breaths. Centering, and then if it feels comfortable, you can put your hand on your heart if that helps, or you can just bring your awareness to your heart center. And as you're there, I just want you to think of someone that you unconditionally love. And it could be an animal, it could be someone who is living, it could be someone who's already passed on. But I just want you to bring that person or that animal into your heart. I always think of my doggy friends. And then when you're ready, Jen, I just want you from this space to tell me what you feel when you feel into the heart.
Mm. So much joy. Like it's just like there's like this bursting of joy, and I have a huge smile on my face and just happiness and oh, just so lovely.
Mhm. And you might also feel, I don't know if you feel this, but I often feel some spaciousness,
Love that word.
and some space and peace, some calm and
Yes.
groundedness, like you had said before.
Yes.
So just take, maybe one more deep breath. And then when you're ready, just open your eyes and come back to the present moment.
What a gift, Jackie.
It's one of the easiest ways to feel
It
what I'm
is.
talking about, and that's why I say it's a remembering, not a learning, because this is something we're all born with. If you spend any time around kids or around animals, especially, I particularly love dogs, you can feel that, almost that just unconditional love. I joke, I've never met an evil baby. This is something that is schooled into us. It's taught and schooled out of us, really. So that's why it's a remembering. Because when we hear a word like language, you might, have the death grip on the thing like, oh my God, I don't know if I can learn another language. I'm barely making it through Duolingo. That's why I remind people it's a remembering. This is something that already exists. It's a returning back to that still, quiet voice that lives within you, that most of us have been schooled out of it.
Oh, yes, yes, and yes. And I love that you mentioned the animals, that unconditional love. Just, I have a newfie, just giving that girl a big fluffy hug and the lick off the face. It's just pure joy. And then you say babies, it's like the same thing. Like, how could you not hold a baby and not feel joy and love? And so I'm so grateful that you walked us through that. Now, this really stood out to me. The fact that you said, it's something we remember, not that we learn. And I think that that there's so much societal conditioning that pulls us out of alignment. And this is something I actually get really fired up about because our systems, especially like our school systems, are created to pull us away from this. So I would just love if you have any thoughts there.
Oh, I have so many thoughts, Jen.
I had a feeling.
Well, one of the things, because I'm so deeply passionate about education and rethinking everything, how we go about education, how we create workforce, all of those things. But the existing education model is modeled after the Industrial Revolution. So there is a video out there that I love that basically talks about all of the progress. If you look at a car from like the 1920s versus a car now, it's like a totally different situation, right? If you look at buildings from the 1920s versus now, totally different situation. If you look at a classroom and the way that they're organized versus then versus now, it's pretty much the same. It's the rows because you are being trained to work on an assembly line and to fit into the certain mold that society wants you to fit in so that you can be a productive member and be on that industrial revolution path. So it doesn't create a lot of opportunity, traditional education for different learning styles, different forms of intelligence. And we're really taught to value this one way of being versus all of these other gifts. And we're really taught to idolize this very mental, in your head way of being in the world. And when you're always in your head, you can be very successful and all of those things. I have a chart that I teach in the heart language course, and that's also in the book. And it basically shows heart versus head. And the thing I always point out is the heart is truth. And the head can make anything true or false. So when you're thinking even about pro and con lists, or if you're thinking about arguments or whatever, you can convince yourself in your mind of anything. And the heart speaks in short sentences and the head speaks in paragraphs. So that's how you can kind of start to see the difference of, am I in my head or am I in my heart? And again, it's not about ignoring your head, not investing in your intellect, your intelligence. I love my intellect. I love my intelligence. I'm 100% an advocate for doing that. The difference is when you root in your heart first, from that still quiet voice, from that expansiveness, from that joy, from that heart-centered place, and then bring your head with you, you're actually creating this clear line of vision. And then the head can do what it does best. It can strategize. It can make goals. I love a strategic plan. I love a 90-day action plan. So that's why I'm all about, go for that dream, that heart-centered dream, and then practical tools. Because what we also don't see is the balance. We see either, you go to a retreat and you have these wonderful moments, and then you are bifurcating your life. We live in these silos, and corporate, especially bigger companies, can often be a reflection of that, of like, okay, well, this is my life and this is who I am, but this is my work self. And when we're constantly separating who we are, that we lose integrity. And what the root of the word integrity is actually wholeness. So it's not so much that we're like, not being like that we're lying or any of those things. It's just that we're out of alignment.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I say that all the time. I use that word alignment because I've seen it with so many folks that are completely different people. I've even seen people take assessments and they ask like, hey, should I take this as my work self or my out of work self? And I said, no, you should take that as your whole self. And there's these different kind of personalities that show up at work versus at home. And that's really where, like, how can we bring more of that into alignment? And it starts with listening to your heart, letting go of all those outside expectations. It's so hard to do, but you just have to quiet the noise and tune in. And that's really where you get those gentle nudges and those little sparks, those little sparks that you can follow. And I just have to mention one other thing. I'm thrilled that you brought up the Industrial Revolution around education. I've never thought about that, but I always talk about the Industrial Revolution, and our work systems are very much similar. You think about the schedule, like a 9 to 5, that's just like an assembly shift, you know what I mean? And I started my career in manufacturing. That's really what it was. And so our work systems have not evolved. They're starting to, but they have not evolved. The language around career is still the same, around ladders and staying at the same place for 35 years. And that's just not how we operate anymore. And so I'm just so grateful for people like you, Jackie, that are sharing this wisdom and bringing the language to us to help us follow our hearts a little bit more. Now, I have a question for you around like the head to the heart. A lot of times I have trouble trying to get people out of their head and into their heart. So like an exercise like this, like that you shared with us here, can help with that. Sometimes the conversation around like ego comes up, and how does that play into all of that? Do you have any insights there?
Yes, I do. Because, the ego is loud and
Yes.
the head is so loud. And so another very simple exercise that I take my clients through all the time is a very simple lying down a piece of paper. So on the left is heart and on the right is head. And I have people do what I call a head dump or a fear dump. So I take a topic, whatever the topic is. It could be around generating revenue in your business. It could be around, dealing with a manager, or maybe you're going for a promotion, because I work with a lot of people on the career side too. And just doing whatever the thoughts are, just doing that fear head dump and letting it really exhaust itself, because the ego is there for protection.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ego, talking about, how our bodies and our systems and education haven't quite caught up. It's the same when you really think about how we're wired. So in caveman times, our body does not know the difference of the fear of a saber-toothed tiger versus the fear of an Excel sheet. It really does not. So with that in mind, it can feel very life or death in your body, which feels so scary, which is why I often call it that fear dump. Because we start to get really like that anxious, the above your diaphragm breathing. So you're really up in your chest and your head, and you quickly can spin out in overwhelm, because it's that can make anything true and paragraphs. So that's why this exercise is really good, to just have it down on paper. And there's something really powerful about handwriting it, because it is that body-mind connection, and it's also single tasking. So you're not distracted typing really quickly. Get that all out. And when you're done with that, go back to that heart exercise we did earlier, center in your heart. And then from that place, with the same topic, listen to what comes through. And I just had a client session on Friday, and it was, about revenue in her business. And there were so many thoughts in the fear dump, and very critical thoughts, because again, our ego wants us to stay safe. And when we're pushing that boundary, I've heard it referred to as a terror barrier. Like when you're about to up level, you are going to confront all those old beliefs from the society, from yourself, from your childhood, whatever. And so you're going to have to kind of meet those and wrestle with them a little bit before you can, and then go back to the heart. And it was such a contrast, because in her head, it was all of these worthiness things of it's never going to happen. What are you even doing? And then when she went in her heart, it was, I'm okay. I've always been okay. I'll figure it out. And it was just this piece. And it's and like to see it on paper in such a visceral way really hits home, even as I've been writing the book, because that's actually how I came up with this exercise, because I was so in my head as I was writing the book, and I was like, this is a book about heart language. You can't be in your head so much. So I did this about the chapters, and my head was like, you need to write 50 chapters, and it needs to give them all this value. And like, you have to make sure, like all these shoulds. And then when I got on my heart, it was like, focus on what is going to be in most in service, 8 chapters. It was so much simpler.
Oh, yes. And I could just sense that in your voice as you were talking about it too. I felt the energy shift there. Hey there, beloved listener. It's Jen here, and I'm popping in with a quick invitation just for you. I know how hard it can be to navigate your career, especially in a world of work that's constantly changing. That's why I created The Gathering Ground. It's an insider circle for steady, heart-based support to help you grow with clarity, confidence, and community. Inside the Gathering Ground membership, you're invited to join us for weekly office hours to ask questions and stay grounded, exclusive pricing on one-on-one coaching, seasonal goal setting and reflection workshops. You'll receive a secret monthly newsletter with fresh tools and inspiration. There's a growing library of networking scripts, checklists, and career development tools designed to support you throughout your career. And best of all, a kind, generous community of professionals who just get it. So whether you're staying, shifting, or starting fresh, this is your space to be supported and stretched in the best way possible. It's just $97 to join, then $27 a month. Flexible, affordable, and no long-term commitment. To get started, head on over to flourish.careers/community and answer a few quick questions. Based on your responses, I'll send you a personalized development plan so you can begin right away with clear human support. No bots, no templates, just thoughtful guidance to move forward with confidence. Because you deserve a long, radiantly happy, and healthy career. I cannot wait to see you on the inside. Now, back to the episode. A couple of things I want to call out here. The pen to paper. I say this all the time. There is something so magical about pen to paper. And then you took the words literally out of my mouth, where I can imagine seeing that on one piece of paper, the head versus the heart, and seeing the difference in what's coming from both of those sides has to be really, really transformational. So, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that you shared that with us, and that we could all do that exercise today if we wanted to. So thank you so much. And I appreciate your comment around the ego keeping us safe. And that's really what it's there for. And even when you think about parents and family members, when you want to make a change, like, they want you to be safe. So they may not be on the same page as what your heart's pulling you towards. And that's okay, because they want the best for you. They want your safety, and that's their role. And it's okay to even say that to them, and just give things a try. Just follow that nudge and give it a try and see what happens, right? So,
yeah. You remember that your family, and in particular parents, are biologically wired to keep you safe. And so not just from an even just like, okay, they love you, but also just from like literally to carry on humanity. They want to ensure that their progeny is safe, that you go on to perpetuate the line. So it's not even just a societal thing. It's also like a biologically hardwired thing. And so oftentimes, family will say, I want the best for you, or I want you to be happy. And happiness and what they want to be best for you often coincides with safety.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you for that. So it's not something your parents are just doing to annoy you. It's really part of who they are. It's in their DNA, and they can't help it. And so just keep that in mind as you navigate changes. Now, one of the things, Jackie, you and I were talking about before we hit record was this idea of more heart at work. And specifically, you believe that open hearts can change the world, and that we need more heart in the boardroom. So can you share a little bit more about that and kind of what it looks like in action?
Yes. So I know we were nerding out, Jen, about the Gallup workforce report.
Yes.
I highly recommend that everyone read this, because it's incredibly important just to know what's going on in the global workforce. But also, if you have moments where you feel like you're taking crazy pills, this report will show you, that you're not. It's just what's going on in the workforce. So one of the big title for this workforce report that just came out is the global workforce at a breaking point? And just to put this in real dollars and cents, last year, the global employee engagement fell, costing the world economy $438 billion in lost productivity. And this really goes back to the primary cause they cite is a drop in manager engagement and really not paying attention to the well-being of workers.
Oh my goodness. That's
so
wild.
I know, it unbelievable. And so when we think, because I know sometimes we talk about the heart, and that might seem woo-woo, or, like, okay, that's great for my personal life or my individual life, but that's not relevant in my business. That's not relevant in my career. And these numbers show us in real dollars and cents the cost of not caring. Of not being, having that balance again between the heart and the head, and being in that place where we care, where we're passionate, where we're showing up and we love what we do. And we've actually done the work, the internal work, to really be aligned with a career and a company and work that we love, and having that process even while we interview to make sure, because I always remind people the interview is a two-way process. It is the company deciding if they want to work with you, and it's you deciding if the culture is a fit, and really paying attention to that two-way conversation, which even 20 years ago, it wasn't as much of a two-way conversation. It definitely is now. So I think that there's so many benefits to people being in their heart, not only for their life and what they want to create in their own careers personally. And it's also like a real dollars and cents, because if you are investing in your employees are going to be happier, they're going to be more engaged, they're going to be more fulfilled. And this looks like, in practical ways, this looks like making sure people have great health care. It looks like making sure that there's maternity leave and paternity leave. It looks like making sure that people have, PTO, and not the unlimited PTO that no one ever takes, like the mandatory PTO that it's like, no, you need to take this time off because we know that you're going to be fresher and better when you get back. One of the things I recently realized, and I'm going to be writing an article about it, is taking a time out before burnout. And I noticed in my own business that I was really, I'm in a huge growth stage in my business, which is very exciting, and it can also be very exhausting. And I was starting to see the signs in me of like, if I don't take a time out, I'm going to burn out. And the signs for me look a lot like having things slip through the cracks, not remembering certain things, like maybe conversations I had with someone, or not, like forgetting to write that email when I'm usually really on top of things, feeling more tired, feeling a little more listless, feeling a little more not as excited or enthused about my work. And for me, that was a telltale sign. Take a time out. And I did. I took, luckily I talked with my boss, and she was like, yeah, you've been working hard, so you should take some time off. And I took a week staycation, and that has been immediately reinvigorating. And I'm taking some shorter periods of time where I'm taking a day or two off throughout the summer so that I can really rejuvenate and get to that stage of replenishment before I get to the burnout stage, because that doesn't do any good for anyone.
Oh my goodness. There's so much goodness in here too. I highlighted here, the cost of not caring is just so incredible. And you're right. Like, our workforce has just been turning upside down. And if we don't catch up with it, it's going to be more than that $438 billion lost that you just talked about. And so, man, what an opportunity for us to kind of rethink how we're working and how leaders are showing up. And imagine a world of work where everyone's working in like their zone and in their strengths and doing something that they care about. And oh my goodness, our world would just be in such a better place.
I know. I call that dreaming up a better world.
Yeah, it really
and
is.
I really, that's what I'm here for. Like my central mission for everything I believe in, whether it's Heart Language or the Dream Academy or just waking up in the morning, is how do we co-create, really. It's not just create, co-create this idea of a better, more harmonious world where everyone thrives, everyone has a place, there is balance, there's more than enough for everyone. We're all in our zone of genius. It's really creating that almost heaven on earth. And I honestly believe it is completely 1,000% possible. It's just going back to like what we were talking about, alignment.
Yep.
We are out of alignment. We're out of alignment as individuals. We're out of alignment as societies. We're out of alignment in the workforce. And when you get really out of alignment, there starts to be costs. There starts to be health costs. There starts to be actual, monetary costs. And so it's really just coming back into balance, because even in those previous versions of the workforce where people would stay for 30 years, there was a pension. There was understanding of life-work balance. There was understanding of, it wasn't just cut. And so the more that we're doing that, we're not only shooting ourselves in the foot just from a company perspective, but also from a broader societal perspective.
Right.
Because it's not sustainable, just like we're seeing in the world and all these unbelievable climactic weather events. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and we went through Helene not even a year ago. And, a place 2,000 feet above sea level, 350 miles from an ocean. And how are we going through a hurricane? And so I just feel like it's 100% possible. It's just about realignment, rebalancing.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it starts with each of us. Really, how do we get ourselves into more alignment? And one of the things you mentioned before is to start seeing the signs. So time out before burnout, take a pause if you're starting to feel something is off and figure out what it is and bring it back into alignment. And that could be something like turning your phone off, your work phone off at 6:00, putting some boundaries into place, or it could be something bigger like pivoting companies or industries or starting your own thing, whatever that means for you. But really just kind of slowing down, tune in, and start with yourself in that alignment. So, I can see that world too. And it is just so amazing.
And it requires that vision and shared vision, because here's the beautiful thing. When you start with yourself, and that's the only place you can really start, to be honest, because you can't necessarily change all the things around you, but you can really address that alignment piece with you. And it starts with creating space, because we cannot hear the heart, because again, the head is really loud.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a megaphone all the time. And so you have to actually move that over a little bit, create the space. So in that first chapter of the book, which people can download, the first exercise, there are heart habits throughout the book, and each one has a heart habit. And the first one, I would say, is actually arguably the most important one, is teaching people how to go back into their heart to create space to listen, and guiding people back to themselves, to their own wisdom, to what is in alignment for them. And the thing is, Jen, and I'm sure you've seen this in all of your work, most people don't even allow themselves to dream or to really tune into the true desires of their heart. So they're always listening and living someone else's talk track, and they don't even know it. And so then they wake up one day burned out, stressed out. Hopefully it doesn't take some sort of cataclysmic event, which usually it does if you're not paying attention to those nudges. And I've been on the other side of when I don't listen to the universe and my heart, and it landed me with a broken foot for a month when I was living in China the second time. And it's a whole story, and all the signs were there, I guarantee you. And even though I'm, tuned in, usually I just ignored them because I didn't want to hear them. And so creating that space, and I encourage people to remember, even creating the space for an hour or two where you're not interrupted, where your phone's on airplane mode, where you really tune in and ask yourself, what do I want now? What are the true desires of my heart? And I encourage people, whatever your thing is, because we all have a thing that's like, oh, I can't live my dreams because of this. And usually it's money. Sometimes it's relationships. Sometimes it's health. Sometimes it's, your career track or ego, whatever that is, frame it in terms of it's already taken care of. So for example, if money is a thing for you, like, I could never change my career or I could never change my job because I'm the breadwinner, and like, how could I possibly do that? So you don't even give your chance. Just say, there's $1 billion in the bank. Now what?
Yeah.
You don't have to ever worry about money again, or maybe there's whatever your number is. There's 50 billion, there's $1 trillion in the bank account. Now what? And that just opens up and turns off that logical peace space to really give yourself a chance to dream.
Yes, that's such a great exercise. Everything's taken care of. What would you want to do? What would your perfect day look like if everything was taken care of? Nothing else. You had nothing else to do. What would you want? How would you want to spend your precious time and energy? Such a great prompt for people to get super dreamy. So thank you so much, Jackie, for sharing that. Now, as we come to a close, you have shared so many practical tools and so much wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. As you've been navigating your career, I always like to ask folks for a flourishing favorite. So we're making a library. What's one book or podcast or resource that has a significant impact on your career? And why would you recommend it to others other than your book, which we're going to make sure gets out there?
I thought about this when I saw that question, and mine is not necessarily a career book, but it had a profound effect on my career and my choices, and that's The Alchemist by
Oh,
Paulo Coelho.
so good.
Yes. And it was during the recession and I moved out to San Francisco and I had 2 bags, an air mattress, a dream, and $1,000 to my name. And I was pounding the pavement looking for a job and my dream job. And I was reading The Alchemist and I was like, I'm following my personal legend. I'm following my personal legend. I'm following my personal legend. And sure enough, that's that aligned action. I landed my dream job 5 weeks later. I had $200 left in my bank account. I was taking care of a black lab chow mix named Sparky to make ends meet. But then, I landed my dream job and I absolutely loved it. And at the time it was working for a major corporation doing mergers and acquisitions in South America and China. And I absolutely loved it. And it turned out even better than I could. But it was talk about, aligned action when things are not safe and sure.
Wow.
And in the book, it talks about a lot of the different aspects of heart language and how we navigate these different pieces, because as you listen to your heart, every time the stakes will feel a little bit higher. It's not so much that it's like, oh, I listen to my heart. And now it's like you work out once and you'll never have to work out again. It's not like that. And the stakes do feel high and the cost does feel high. And that's why going through these consistent processes over and over and over again, I do it all the time, really helps us recenter because we change. We're not stagnant. So I even do a lot of these exercises, especially the big questions, the create space exercise every 6 months to really tune
Nice.
in and be like, okay, what is in that question of the blog that I wrote for many years called 6 Months to Live. What would you do if you had 6 months to
Yes.
live? Not that you're going to have some catastrophic thing, but like if you took 6 months to truly live, what would you do? And at the time, that was moving to San Francisco
Mm.
because that was my dream. And again, logically made no sense because I didn't know anyone out there, but it all worked out even better than I could have ever imagined.
Oh my goodness. I love that you mentioned the book, The Alchemist, and shared all these stories that go with it. When someone recommended that book to me, I literally think I read it in, I don't know, 2 hours. I devoured that book. It is so good. And I'm shocked that no one has mentioned it. So we will definitely put the link to that in the notes as well and add it to the library. Oh my goodness, Jackie. I am just so grateful to have met you. And I'm so grateful that you have followed your heart and can educate others on following their heart. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all of this heart-based wisdom. It has been such a joy.
Thank you. Yeah, Jen, you are fantastic. Jen and I originally connected because she was a guest on a podcast that I listened to with Gig Talent with Jamie Jacobs. And I absolutely loved everything she was saying. So I had a fangirl moment and I reached out to Jen through LinkedIn and was like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. And then we connected. And so I just love the airwaves. And also that was a heart prompt that I think that's a great note to end on, is that the heart prompts don't have to be these big life-changing major career things. They can be just reach out to that person. And before you have a chance to overthink it, just do it. And that's that aligned action, is paying attention to your intuition and taking, like you said, those small, tiny steps. So thank you so much, Jen. You are a joy. I love everything that you're doing. I'm your fangirl, cheerleader, all the things over here. So thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. Same. And I'm so grateful that we speak the same language when it comes to all things heart-based. So,
Yeah.
Jackie, where can people find you online?
So the best way is thedream.academy. It's one of those cool, funky domain names. And at jacqueline.e.boone on Instagram. Also Jacqueline Boone on LinkedIn. And then at the.dream.academy on Instagram as well.
Perfect. And we will make sure all those links are in the show notes along with the first chapter of your book. So listeners, be sure to grab that. It's a really good chapter. It's definitely going to educate you and it's going to leave you wanting more, just like it did for me. So thank you, Jackie. And listeners, as always, the notes from today's episode will be on the blog at flourish.careers/blog. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.